True leadership is not about power, it's about serving people. And I want you to hear me today, because that truth is older than any nation, stronger than any army, and deeper than any office in Washington, D.C. We live in a world where men and women chase positions, chase recognition, chase authority as if those things will somehow make them great. But true greatness, real greatness, never comes from how many people bow to you, or how many doors swing open when you walk down the hallway. True greatness is measured by how many lives you touch, how many burdens you help carry, and how many people are lifted because you were willing to bend low and serve them. Now think about Jack Stanton in this story. He looks at his friend Henry, and he declares, "I'm going to be the next president of the United States. I'm going to the White House." That's a bold statement. That's a dream that shakes the ground beneath a man's feet. But what does it really mean to say you want to be president? Is it just about the Oval Office, the title, the motorcade, and the applause? Or is it about carrying the weight of a people on your shoulders, listening to their cries, and giving them hope when hope feels far away? Leadership is not about standing taller than everyone else. It's about kneeling lower than anyone else would dare to go. It's about saying, "I will wash your feet, I will feed your hunger, I will hear your pain." That's where real leadership begins. Power fades, titles change, elections come and go, but the heart of a servant endures. It outlasts every headline, every rumor, every storm. The danger we face today is the temptation to confuse fame with leadership, to confuse charisma with character, to confuse loud promises with quiet faithfulness. But when you strip away the spotlight and the microphones, when the cheering stops and the stage is empty, the only question left is this: did you serve? Did you give yourself for the sake of others, or did you only chase after your own crown? I think of the men and women who never held public office, who never stood on a stage, who never had their names printed in a book. Yet they were leaders in the truest sense because they served. A teacher who stays late after school to help a struggling child, there's leadership. A nurse who holds the hand of a patient when the family cannot be there, there's leadership. A mother or father working 2 jobs just to put food on the table, there's leadership. They may never enter the White House, but they've already entered the hearts of those they served. And that's what Jack Stanton needed to understand, what Henry needed to see, what every one of us must learn if we're going to talk about leadership and dreams. It is not enough to say, "I want to be president." It is not enough to say, "I want to lead." You must be ready to serve. You must be willing to give, to listen, to sacrifice. Without that, leadership is hollow, empty, and doomed to fall apart. Some of you listening right now may not dream of being president, but you do dream of something greater than yourself. You want to build a life that matters. You want to rise above the ordinary. Let me tell you, your path to greatness is found not in what you take, but in what you give, not in how loudly you can speak, but in how carefully you can listen, not in how many people follow you, but in how faithfully you walk with those who need you most. So don't be fooled by the bright lights or the applause of the crowd. Don't think you need to hold the highest office in the land to make the deepest impact. The truest leaders are servants at heart, and their legacy is written not in marble buildings, but in human souls. That is the kind of leadership this world is starving for. That is the kind of leadership that will endure long after the titles are gone, long after the power has faded, long after the voices of critics have fallen silent. Because true leadership is not about power, it's about serving people. Every dream begins with a calling deep inside the heart. You can feel it long before you can explain it. It stirs you when you're young, it whispers to you when the night is quiet, and it keeps you awake when the world is asleep. It doesn't ask for permission, and it doesn't always make sense. A true calling is something you cannot shake. You can run from it, you can try to bury it, You can tell yourself it's impossible, but it keeps rising up again because it is planted deep within you. Jack Stanton stood in that room, looked Henry in the eye, and declared with boldness, "I'm going to be the next president of the United States." That wasn't just ambition speaking. That was a man wrestling with a calling that had taken root in his heart. He saw a future bigger than himself, and he believed he was meant to step into it. That's what a calling does. It paints a picture of what could be, even when everything around you says it's out of reach. And maybe you've felt something like that in your own life, a dream that won't let you go, a vision of what you could do, what you could become, or how you could serve. It may not be the presidency, it may not put you in front of a nation, but it is just as powerful, just as real, and just as worthy, because a calling isn't measured by the size of the stage. It's measured by the fire it lights in your soul. Now here's the truth. Every dream worth living will be tested. You will face doubts. You will hear voices telling you it cannot be done, and sometimes those voices will come from the people closest to you. That's what Henry represented when he wanted to walk away. That's what Stanton faced when he had to say, "Don't you want to go with me?" Because when you're chasing a calling, not everyone will see what you see. Not everyone will feel what you feel. Some will quit, some will laugh, some will fight against it, but the calling remains, and here's the difference between a wish and a calling. A wish is something you hope for if it comes easy. A calling is something you'll fight for when it costs you everything. A calling will carry you through sleepless nights, long days, and endless opposition, because it's not just in your mind, it's rooted in your heart. Too many people today ignore the quiet voice inside them. They let the noise of the world drown it out. They trade their calling for comfort, for applause, for acceptance. But deep down, the longing never dies. They know there was more. They know they were meant for something greater. The tragedy is not that dreams are too big, but that too often people settle for dreams that are too small. Let me tell you, when you answer that calling, when you step forward in faith, you discover a strength you didn't know you had, doors open that you could not have forced open on your own. People show up at just the right time. And even when the storms come, and they will, there is something unshakable inside you that keeps you moving forward. That's the power of a dream that begins in the heart. Think about the great men and women in history who changed the course of nations, who lifted up generations, who turned despair into hope. Every one of them began with a calling. They weren't always the smartest, the richest, or the most powerful, but they were the ones who refused to ignore that voice deep inside. They listened, they believed, and they acted. And you, yes, you, carry the same possibility. Your calling may lead you to classrooms, to hospitals, to businesses, to neighborhoods. It may lead you to raise a family, to heal the broken, to speak for the voiceless. Whatever it is, if it's born in your heart, it matters. It's not too small, it's not too late, and it's not impossible. The question is not whether you have a calling. The question is whether you will answer it, because every dream begins with a calling deep inside the heart. The path to greatness demands sacrifice, courage, and persistence. There has never been a man or woman who achieved something truly lasting without paying that price. We live in a culture that craves quick rewards and instant recognition. People want the crown without the cross, the victory without the struggle, the harvest without the plowing. But greatness never comes cheap. It costs something, and if you are not willing to give, to risk, to endure, you will never reach the destiny that was meant for you. Look at Jack Stanton in this story. He stood there with conviction, declaring that he would be the next president of the United States. That kind of dream does not unfold overnight. It does not come without sleepless nights, without rejection, without battles that most people never see. To rise to that level, you must walk through storms that would make others turn back. You must face enemies that you never invited, and you must keep pressing forward when even your friends are ready to walk away. Sacrifice is the first test on the path to greatness. What are you willing to give up in order to step into the life you are meant to live? Some people want the dream, but they want to keep their comfort. They want the success, but they don't want to pay the price. But every great story in history is a story of sacrifice. Leaders who gave up their own ease to carry the burden of others. Men and women who set aside their own gain to serve a higher calling. Sacrifice strips away selfishness and proves whether your dream is real. If you are willing to give nothing, then your dream is worth nothing, and then there is courage. Greatness requires you to stand when everything in you wants to run. It takes courage to face the critics who will tear down your name. It takes courage to walk into the unknown when there are no guarantees. It takes courage to keep speaking the truth when lies would be easier and safer. Courage does not mean you are fearless. Courage means you act in spite of the fear. You press forward when the ground shakes beneath you, and you refuse to bow when the pressure comes. But even sacrifice and courage are not enough without persistence. Because the road is long, you may start with passion, you may rise with energy, but somewhere along the way the fire will be tested. Doors will slam shut, plans will fall apart, people will disappoint you. And in that moment, the easy thing is to quit. But persistence is the steady hand that keeps you walking when the road feels endless. Persistence is the voice inside that says, I didn't come this far to give up now. Persistence is the reason some people break through when others fall away. And let me tell you something, persistence doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it means getting up one more morning when yesterday broke your heart. Sometimes it means showing up when no one notices, working when no one claps, believing when no one else believes. Persistence is not dramatic, it's faithful, and that faithfulness, day after day, year after year, builds a strength that cannot be shaken. Think of the stories that inspire us most. They are not tales of people who had everything handed to them. They are not stories of lives without struggle. They are the stories of men and women who sacrificed what others would not, who showed courage when others turned back, who persisted when everyone else gave up. That is why their names are remembered. That is why their lives echo long after they are gone. And maybe you feel tired right now. Maybe your dream seems too far away. Maybe the sacrifices have been heavy, the battles too fierce, and you wonder if it's worth it. Let me tell you, it is worth it. Every step forward, every tear shed, every moment you choose to endure rather than surrender is shaping you, preparing you, and proving that your calling is real. Because the truth will always remain. The path to greatness demands sacrifice, courage, and persistence. Voices will rise against you, but conviction will keep you standing. If you have ever dared to dream, if you have ever stepped forward into something greater than yourself, you already know this to be true. The moment you decide to walk a different path, the moment you choose to rise above the ordinary, the voices begin. They come in whispers and they come in shouts. They come from strangers and sometimes from those you thought were friends. They question your motives, they doubt your ability, they mock your vision, and they try to turn your steps backward. Jack Stanton heard those voices. He stood in front of Henry with a bold claim. I'm going to be the next president of the United States. Immediately, the resistance came. Henry wanted to quit. Stanton pleaded, you can't quit. This is silly. That moment captures what so many of us face. The voices that say, it can't be done. You're not the one. Turn back while you still can. And if all you have is the applause of people, if all you have is the approval of the crowd, you won't last. Because the crowd is fickle, They cheer one moment and condemn the next. You need something deeper. You need conviction. Conviction is not a passing opinion or a fleeting feeling. Conviction is a truth that has settled so deep in your heart that nothing can shake it. Conviction is the reason a man or woman stands tall when the world tries to cut them down. Conviction is the anchor that holds firm in the storm, the root that goes deep when the winds howl, the fire that keeps burning when the night is cold. Without conviction, dreams collapse. Without conviction, leaders fall. But with conviction, you can endure any attack, you can face any critic, and you can keep walking forward when the whole world tells you to turn back. The voices will rise, and they will come in many forms. Some will laugh at you, some will accuse you, some will try to confuse you, and the greatest temptation you will face is the temptation to believe them. To let their words define you, to let their doubts become your doubts. But hear me, your conviction must be stronger than their voices. If you know in your heart that your calling is real, if you know that the dream was planted by something greater than yourself, then you must refuse to surrender. Think of the great leaders of history. Every single one of them faced opposition. Every single one of them was criticized, ridiculed, even hated, but they stood because conviction held them up. They did not live for applause. They did not bend for comfort. They stood because they knew the truth, and the truth was worth standing for. Conviction will cost you something. It may cost you friends. It may cost you opportunities. It may even cost you peace in the moment. But the price of conviction is always less than the price of compromise. Because when you compromise, you lose yourself. You trade the eternal for the temporary. You trade your integrity for acceptance, and once you've done that, nothing left in your hands will satisfy your soul. But conviction, real conviction, gives you strength to stand even when you stand alone. It gives you courage to walk into the fire, knowing the fire cannot burn away the truth. It gives you endurance to outlast the critics, to keep showing up, to keep pressing on, until the very voices that mocked you are silenced by the reality of your persistence. And maybe you are facing those voices right now. Maybe you hear them in your workplace, in your classroom, in your own family. Maybe the doubts echo louder than your dream. Let me remind you, the same conviction that carried leaders through history can carry you today. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need the world to cheer for you. You need conviction that says, I know who I am. I know what I've been called to do, and I will not turn back. Because voices will rise against you, but conviction will keep you standing. The future belongs to those who believe in more than themselves. It has always been that way, and it always will be. When a person lives only for their own comfort, their own gain, their own success, their story ends the moment their time is over. But when someone believes in something bigger, when they see beyond their own life and their own desires, they begin to shape a future that reaches far beyond themselves. The greatest lives ever lived were never about one individual. They were about the generations that would come after. Jack Stanton stood with fire in his eyes, declaring he would be the next president of the United States. To some, it sounded like pride, like ambition, like one man chasing power. But to him, it was more than that. He wasn't just dreaming of an office or a title. He was dreaming of a country, of a people, of a nation's future. That's the difference between selfish ambition and a true calling. One dies with the man. The other outlives him. If your dream is only about you, it will never last. If your vision is only for your own benefit, it will never inspire others to walk with you. But if you believe in more than yourself, if you believe in lifting others, in building something greater than your own name, then your dream has the power to endure. The greatest leaders, the greatest teachers, the greatest builders were not remembered for what they took, but for what they gave. History has proven this again and again. The future never belonged to those who lived small, selfish lives. It never belonged to those who clutched tightly to what was theirs. It belonged to the men and women who laid down their comfort for a cause, who lifted their eyes beyond the present moment, who were willing to give themselves for something that mattered more than their own story. That is why we remember them. That is why their lives still speak when their voices have long been silent. And here's the truth: believing in more than yourself takes humility. It takes courage. It takes faith to admit that the world is bigger than you, and that your life is meant to serve a purpose beyond your own gain. That's not weakness, that's strength, because the person who believes only in themselves will fall the moment they stumble. But the person who believes in a cause greater than themselves will rise again, because that cause pulls them forward even when they want to quit. Some of you have dreams right now that are waiting to be answered, but you're holding back because you're thinking only of yourself, your fear, your pride, your comfort. If you could lift your eyes higher, if you could see the lives you might touch, the people you might inspire, the difference you might make, you'd find the courage to step forward. That's what greatness is built on, not self-interest, but self-giving. Think about it. A teacher who pours her life into her students is building a future beyond herself. A father who works long hours to give his children a better chance is believing in more than himself. A leader who risks reputation, who risks comfort, to defend truth and justice is choosing a future beyond his own lifetime. These are the people who shape tomorrow, not because they were perfect, not because they never failed, but because they dared to believe in more than their own story. And I want you to know the world is desperate for that kind of vision today. Too many voices are telling us to live for ourselves, to chase after pleasure, to protect what's ours, to look out only for number one. But that road is empty. It leads nowhere. The future has always been written by those who lifted their eyes higher, who chose to serve, who chose to give, who chose to believe in something greater than their own name. So don't settle for a dream that ends with you. Don't build a life so small it cannot outlive your days. Believe in more. Believe in people. Believe in purpose. Believe in the power of sacrifice and service. Because when you do, your story becomes part of something eternal, something unshakable, something that can change the world. The future belongs to those who believe in more than themselves. Destiny is shaped not by chance, but by the choices we make today. So many people live as if life is nothing more than a roll of the dice, as if their future depends on luck or fate or the turning of some wheel beyond their control. But I tell you, destiny is not written by chance. It is written by decisions. It is carved out by the choices you make in the quiet moments when no one else is watching, by the paths you take when the road divides, by the sacrifices you are willing to make when the cost feels too high. Jack Stanton believed he was destined for the White House, but his destiny wasn't guaranteed. His future would be shaped by the decisions he made in that moment and in the many moments that followed. Henry wanted to quit. Stanton pushed forward. That was a choice. Every time we say yes or no, every time we move forward or turn back, we are shaping the story of our lives. You are not a victim of chance. You are a steward of choice. Think about it. The greatest turning points in your life probably came down to decisions, not accidents. The school you chose to attend, the job you decided to take, the relationships you built or broke, the times you decided to stand when it would have been easier to fall. Those were choices, and they shaped where you are today. And the truth is, the choices you make tomorrow will shape where you stand years from now. Chance is an excuse. Choice is responsibility. People say, if only I had better luck, I'd have a better life. No, friend, It's not about luck. It's about the daily decisions that either bring you closer to your calling or drag you further away. Luck will not carry you through the storm. Chance will not hold you up when the winds blow. But the right choices made again and again will build a foundation that no storm can wash away. And let me tell you, the most important choices are often the hardest ones. To sacrifice when you want to keep, to forgive when you want to hate, to speak truth when a lie would be easier, to persist when quitting feels like the only option. These are the choices that shape character, and character shapes destiny. You can achieve success without character, but it will never last. True destiny, the kind that outlives you, can only be built on choices that honor truth, integrity, and service. History is full of men and women who faced the same crossroads you face. Some chose selfishness, greed, corruption, and their names are remembered in shame. Others chose sacrifice, courage, and conviction, and their names are remembered with honor. They were no different than you. They did not have more time, more opportunity, more power. What they had were choices, and they chose to shape their future with courage and faith instead of fear and compromise. You may not feel powerful right now. You may think your decisions are small, unnoticed, insignificant, but every choice is a seed. Every yes, every no, every word, every action plants something in the soil of your future, and one day those seeds grow. One day the harvest comes, and when it does, you will live in the world your choices created. That is why every decision matters. That is why every step counts. Don't wait for chance to give you a better life. Don't wait for luck to hand you an open door. Start shaping your destiny today with the choices you make. Choose to serve instead of take. Choose to stand instead of bow. Choose to believe instead of despair. Choose to keep walking when the road is long, because the future is not written by chance. It is written by choice. Destiny is shaped not by chance, but by the choices we make today. Thank you for staying with me through this story of dreams, courage, and conviction. Remember, true leadership, real destiny, begins with the choices you make today. If this message inspired you, give it a like. It really helps share the word. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful English stories and lessons each week. Until next time, keep believing in more than yourself, because the future belongs to you.